Welcome to Career and Leadership Real Talk, the no-nonsense guide for ambitious managers who want to have more impact and progress their career. I'm Pamela Langan, a job search coach and expert CV writer specialising in helping frustrated professionals land the jobs and pay rises they know they deserve.
And I'm Jackie Jagger, a leadership and mindset coach specialising in helping newly promoted and new to role leaders to avoid the dickhead trap and lead with confidence. Between us, we've helped hundreds of leaders and managers to find new roles, take ownership of their careers, and handle the challenges that job searches and leadership responsibility inevitably bring. And now we're joining forces to share with you what we know has worked for our clients. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. We have another guest expert episode this week, which we are really looking forward to. The questions and the discussion should be brilliant. We are joined today by the fabulous Paula Brockwell. So Paula, do you want to introduce people and let them know your area of expertise so that we can tease our topic for today?
Absolutely. So I'm Paula Brockwell. I've always got to say the name first, even though you've done that, but there we go. I'm Paula Brockwell, and my background is I'm an occupational psychologist, and I support businesses on shaping productive and positive cultures.
Love it. And our episode today is on leading through culture change. So this is a topic that we know a lot of you that are listening to this will have to get involved at some point in your career in often the how of culture change programs, of being asked to deliver some of the tactical elements, but you might not necessarily be at the level that's involved in why it's needed or what is expected. That can be a really challenging situation to be placed in. And so we are going to be mining Paula's brain and all of her expertise. Paula, is this something you see with clients where there are different layers of leadership involved in these programs in different ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I think exactly as you reflected in that statement before you asked me the question, we don't really define what role leaders need to play. We just say there's a general intent for change, and we don't help leaders really understand what their role is other than get your team on board. And it's a really unhelpful dynamic to get caught in, I think.
So when do organisations typically bring you in, and what does that support look like?
Yes, we start to work with organisations typically whenever they've recognised that either they've tried change in the past and it hasn't caught fire and they're not quite sure why, or they've got such a mammoth change to happen that it just feels so out of their wheelhouse that they don't know how to even get started on it because it's just such a different way of working. And our ethos is very much about making culture a team sport, getting out of that traditional vision, values cascade where we're just saying to people broadly, this is what our purpose and where we're going. These are the 5 words we want everybody to align to straight away, into a place of helping businesses create that more pragmatic plan about, well, actually what needs to change in our system and how do we get our leaders to really understand how we encourage people to behave differently through how we lead them, but also how we create a system through the systems and the processes and decisions that allow people to behave differently as well. So it's that pragmatic approach to change of recognizing that we can't just say some words and expect everything to be different. We work with businesses that want to tool the whole business up to things being different.
And I think that pragmatism is the connection that when we first met, for me, was really key. Everything that you do and the way you articulate your work is so grounded. For me, that's something that I know in my career, I've seen issues where there is that kind of desire for change, but the language, everything just feels like it's totally unrelatable. And I'm just like, how does that work?
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, culture is this conceptual thing that happens at the side of the business. And truthfully, culture is the way we do business. It's as much of an ops priority, as much of a strategic priority as how many people we have in different teams or what tech we decide to use for our CRM or the like. So if we can get it into that place of understanding that people's behaviour is a tool for business performance, we're more likely to support people to influence it positively.
It's really interesting as well, because any culture change projects that I've been involved in the past, I've always been surprised at how long it can take sometimes. And people think we're going to do this change we're going to get everyone on board, we're going to drive it forward. And then they actually underestimate how long sometimes it can take. And especially if you've not got the right expertise within the team and everything. So how do you find it with timelines and advising businesses around how long these things can take?
Yeah, like the exec team always face it when I say it, but I say real momentum doesn't really start to build until 12 to 18 months. And you only really start to embed new behaviours into business as usual by about 3 years. That's what good culture change looks like. If you try and go any faster than that, it's not true. And I think the big thing for me is recognizing that if you're asking people to behave differently, you've got to shift everything that's encouraging them to demonstrate the old behaviors. There's a reason why the old culture is in place, and you've systematically got to go through the business and reset all the stuff that's asking people to point towards the old stuff and point it towards the new stuff instead.
Yeah, I love that, because it does take time to really embed. People have got to work through those new processes and the new behaviors. Ultimately, they've got to make mistakes, learn from them, and get on track with the new ways of working. So it is, and it's always good, isn't it, to have someone like you that can come in and advise on, I've done this before and this is how it can look. These are the challenges that other companies have faced, because sometimes when you're going through that for the first time, especially as a leader, when the first time I went through a culture change project, I was pretty much a brand new leader, and it was all brand new to me at the time. It's hard knowing, isn't it? What are the challenges? We're just working through this day to day, trying to get everything done, bring in new technology, help people create new ways of working. But it's, as a new leader, it can be quite daunting because you don't know when it's going to end. Where you're saying typically these are the timelines, is a really good thing to know, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's such a roller coaster as well. One of the things that I find businesses benefit most from me is that kind of distance, in that I can see the whole picture the whole time. And I think it's really hard when you're in it. If you're having a bad day or you hit a bit of resistance, it's terrible. When you get a bit of momentum, it feels really great. And having that capacity to step back and think this is a longer term thing that'll go up and down, that makes it a much easier process, I think.
So let's start to break it down, perhaps, then, for people that are in that situation where they're maybe like Pam was, a new leader, or maybe they're more established, been in their role a while, and suddenly changes is on the agenda. How can leaders start when it comes to being at the start of that journey? What are the things that they need to know? What are the things that they need to do at that very beginning point?
I think for leaders, they play a really critical role in the change, which is about making it feel real to their teams and their people, making it feel practical and pragmatic and applicable to their day to day, but also then making it feel safe to try new behaviours. So that's what your job is as a leader. It's not to imagine what the behaviours are, have to tell loads of stories about it. It's having those everyday conversations and thinking about how you integrate it into what you do. So I think there's two things that you can do to get started. One is just having a conversation with your team about the why. What is it? Why is the business doing this? Why is it important? But then supporting the team to agree the what, in terms of, if we see where we're going and what the business says good looks like, what does that mean for us as a team? What are we prioritizing? What are we focusing on first? What's the journey we need to take as a group together? How do we need to shift? So making it come to life within that local area is massively important, and having that team agreement of playing with all of these concepts and stories that are being told at a business level for your own team is massively important. But I think the other bit is having those one-to-one conversations with your direct reports. If you know that you're being asked to behave differently, if you know that your role is shifting because the ways of working and the key behaviours are shifting, then talk to your direct reports about that and explain what that means in terms of the differences around the standards that you'll be setting for them, or your expectations and what you'll be pulling from them. And just having those honest conversations and resetting that contract brings it to life. Good conversations, but that team one about what does this mean for us? And then that honest conversation with your direct report about how might our jobs change, or the expectations on us change over time, and how do we work together to do that transition is massively important.
I love that. And I think just what you said at the very beginning there about why it's happening is such an easy one for people to miss or to forget. It's almost, especially if you've been aware of this change is coming for a little while and it hasn't been announced immediately, I think you can internalize that you know stuff and forget that other people haven't been party to those conversations. And I think that why piece can very often be missed as a result of that.
Yeah. Or it's massively too light touch. We do it once and then we tick it off in our own head. And actually people need to revisit it and play with it and understand it from different perspectives. The why for the business versus the why for colleague experience can be quite different. Talking about, yes, why we're doing this as a business driver, but then translating it into that team why of how can this make it feel better for us? How does it help us perform better, etc. Generally, businesses aren't doing stuff to make things worse. So there's a really positive message around change. You've just got to dig in to figure out what is relevant to your people rather than it just being about share price or whatever. That's what the business will be talking about because that's what it's focused on. But there's always something that we can translate down into something that feels more relevant to our team.
I suppose as well from a leadership perspective, like regardless of where you are in your leadership journey, there's always that element of when you're going through change that you haven't got all the answers. I think that can be quite tough, can't it? Because you're leading this team of people and you're saying, we're going to make all of these changes and these are all of the reasons why. Sometimes it's exciting and sometimes maybe it's not as glamorous. It's just the things we need to do. When you've not got all of that information and the team are asking questions and things like that, that can feel really difficult as a leader.
Yeah. And I think that ability to be like a bit vulnerable really and say, I don't know all the answers, but I'll work it out with you. That is so powerful. I think people smell the projection of it's all going to be fine. And I don't have the detail, but I'm just telling you it's fine. Keep going. What people will trust and come with you on is that honesty of I've got your back. I'll work with you on this. Let's figure this out together and make sure that we make it work for us. I think that's really important. I think the other bit is honesty about how we need to change. So a lot of the time, one of the things I notice for leaders who find change most tough is where perhaps the new culture is a bit outside of their own natural preferences. Maybe there's some stretch for them and they try and just fit into the new mold without any discussion. But everybody in the room knows that isn't the perfect place for them or it's going to be a bit of a stretch. And in those one-to-one conversations, talking as much with your team about what you need from them to drive the change as asking them, how do you need me to be, or can you help me if you notice me slipping back into this? It's about creating a deal with your people that you can navigate that stuff together, really.
Yeah, and as you were talking through there, I was thinking back to a time when I was in that situation. It was a really tough situation to be in because I, at that time, didn't really like change. And I was working in a space that was very much changing and happened to lead people along the way. And I actually said to my team at the time, I do not like change, but we are changing and we need to work together and we need to figure out how we do this together. And at the time, I thought that it felt really like I was being really vulnerable, but I needed to be honest with them because I was like, I do not enjoy change in the slightest. As the years have gone on, I've adapted to it. I'm probably still not a huge fan of change now, but it just shows that you can be vulnerable and share that with the team. Sometimes it does help bring them along on that journey because if they're looking to you for all the answers and you're trying to find the answers all of the time, those small shares can help them to see you as a human that is trying to work through the changes and the new processes and everything.
Yeah, and there's just something about treating people like humans and change. We expect people to be robots and just line up behind stuff, but it's a much better world where we say to people, it's okay to feel whatever you feel. The expectation is that you find a way to work through those feelings to get to the end goal. But actually what we often do is overcorrect and just say you can't feel anything and you've just got to be the sunshine and rainbows police about this. And that stops people moving forward. Creating space for all the emotions with the expectation that you'll work through them and discuss them and notice when you're getting caught and take responsibility for that's how good change happens. And a lot of places don't do that, I think.
I'm really interested in the other side because I was smiling as Pam was describing that she didn't change. Because I think for me, it was more the other way around where I actually really enjoy change, but I recognize that maybe my team didn't find it as easy. If someone's in that situation where they're well up for it and they are the sunshine and rainbows kind of leader and they can see the need for it and they really want to help it move at pace, but they're maybe coming across some resistance and their team aren't quite ready or aren't quite as open, what can those kind of leaders do to handle that?
Yeah, the Labrador puppy of change. One tennis ball and they're off. There's not a problem at all. I'm going to go for it. Looks exciting. I'm one of those as well, to be fair, Jackie. I'm talking from bitter experience on this, I think, as well as professional experience. Honestly, I think it's about recognizing the journey that you need to take people on. For me, it's about taking a deep breath before every conversation and thinking, where are these people, not where am I? And meeting your team where they are and being willing to create that space where they can talk honestly about where they are and trying to meet them there. And we've got a readiness framework that we use at an organizational level, and generally find that there's one of four things that's making people feel blocked to the change. They don't see the reason for it. It feels perfectly nice here. I've been working here for the last 30 years and we've done perfectly well now, and why are we changing is one of the big things that we see. So helping people understand the need for change is often really critical. Sometimes people are caught in a place where they get that there's a need for change, but they think everybody else needs to change and they don't think they need to. So creating a safe space to talk to them very specifically about what does this look like for them? What's the change that they might need? How might they influence other people if they move a bit rather than waiting for everybody else as part of it? They might not feel like they've got the confidence. So they know that they know there needs to be change, but they don't feel like they've got the confidence. Coaching, training, support and development to help them do that's critical. But the one that we notice most is often around opportunity. So you're saying to someone, be different, but they look the whole way around this system and basically it's the same as it's always been. So they think, for example, personal responsibility is one that people focus on a lot. If I'm really going to overcome all of the barriers that I need to deliver something, if all of the other teams in the business haven't started moving and make it really difficult for me to do my day job, how can I do that? As a leader, it's our job to help people see those barriers and start to help them overcome them. Our job's really about breaking through rather than getting people excited and asking them to run through brick walls because they'll get knackered at some point and break something or just leave. Rather than asking them to do that, it's our job to start to move some of those walls or help them find paths around them. So if somebody's stuck, having a look at which of these four is it? Do they just not get it? Do they not see their own role? Are they scared of it personally? Or are they just seeing brick walls all around them that they don't feel they can do anything about? If we understand which of those four things or which mix of those, because sometimes it's lots of them together, which mix of them is it, then we can start to shift things a bit to move people forward. So you can do it in a really structured and evaluative way that isn't just thinking, oh God, I've got to have this conversation again about why they should come with me on this adventure. Be pragmatic and targeted about it and understand what's really holding people back.
I love the simplicity of that framework and being able to diagnose. I think that's really helpful for people to think about where the resistance is coming from. And as I was listening to you describing it, one of the things that really struck me is how high pressure it is as a leader, like how ill-equipped leaders can feel when they're thrown in and expected to, whether they're the one that might find change difficult or they're more of the Labrador, it can feel high pressure because of what goes on around you. Are there any ways that people can help to perhaps ease some of that pressure that they might be feeling as they're in the process of trying to deliver change? Yeah.
I think there's a huge amount of pressure to do it quickly, pressure to do it perfectly, to get to the end point and never slip back. And honestly, I think the best thing you can do as a leader is make it safe for your people to make mistakes and help them get back on track again. The truth is, particularly when it comes to behaviour change, our behaviours are pretty ingrained, neural pathway level. We've learned at some point to behave in the context that we are and respond to the stimuli that we do at work in a really quite automated way. So change is hard and we will make mistakes and we will slip back to the old behavior. So as a leader, if we are creating permission for people to make mistakes and giving them the contact and the support that they need to notice that and help them get back on track, then we're much more likely to succeed. So I think there's a bit here about not expecting yourself to be perfect, not expecting yourself not to have bad days around it, not expecting your team to just flip and get it straight away. Creating that time for people to come to terms with it, to play with it, to understand it, and to mess up and have to try again. That's the best thing you can do. Otherwise, you're just going to drive yourself potty because it's a messy, sticky, circular thing that never works the way you intended it to, really. I talk a lot to businesses and leaders in particular about just tipping a load of marbles onto the pool table, and you would never expect those all to colour coordinate themselves and drop into the right pockets. They're all going to bounce off each other. It's about building momentum and then just using that momentum to nudge things, and not expecting perfection. You can fix anything over time.
I love that analogy because it is so true. Because I was just thinking then as you were talking through that, especially within a culture change project, people want things to happen. They don't want to make mistakes. People don't want to be seen to be the ones that are making the mistakes, or nobody wants to look stupid and things like that. And I think it is that space, isn't it, to make mistakes, learn and keep moving forward, but have that support and direction. It's almost like fail fast, isn't it? You can move forward even faster. When I think about all the changes I've worked on, and I worked specifically in change for 6 years, even though I said I didn't enjoy change, I ended up working in change for 6 years, and I did actually come to love working in that space, but it was quite hard. And I think that was one of the key things that I learned, that you've got to give people the space. You can't just expect them to be perfect overnight. You can't just give them a direction and expect them all to fall into line. I think from a leadership perspective, that ongoing support and training is needed for the leaders, because we're making this change. You're going to lead on this. You're going to do it. Everyone's going to start changing. And then it's like, right now, everybody, business as usual, let's go. It's that support, coaching and training element that I always think is sometimes missed. You've got to make mistakes and learn from them. It's the cycle, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think what people tolerate mistakes in a way that we don't realise. I think a lot of the time we think we just got to nail this and land it perfectly if we want the masses to come with us. And I think what people don't trust or don't tolerate is us lying about something, or being over optimistic, or pretending that the muddied stuff that comes with the change isn't there. The fact that it takes 3 times as long to run the new system or process, or if we want to collaborate, it takes longer to do that than stick our head down and just get the task done individually. If we lie about that stuff, people won't come with us because they can see the reality in front of them. But if we say to them, we're going to give this, let's do this together. Let's try some stuff. We don't know exactly what will make this happen, but let's try some stuff together and listen and see what works and push what works. People will tolerate that more than they will, this is the perfect plan and it's going to make everything magic. So honesty and that vulnerability is just massively important.
It's so interesting because that took me back to a time where there was a change project. And part of the way that it was communicated, I remember being sat in a room and they were talking about this 5-year plan and this is where we want to get to and all of that. I remember being asked to almost go forward and visualize and say, why are you still in the business? My immediate reaction at that point in time was to go, there's no way on God's earth I'm still going to be here. They are absolutely nuts if they think this is going to happen. So yeah, that over optimism and just saying how amazing things are when they're clearly not does not work. People see through it.
I think there's an interesting thing around echo chambers. Whenever we have direct reports and we're connected to our teams, we know the realities. But as we progress through our leadership journey in our careers, there's something that happens in organization where information just gets more and more curated and sanitized. So I think a really important step for you as a leader is thinking about what's my feedback loops here and how am I making sure that I'm staying connected to the true pain point. If I've got managers in between me and the people who are on the ground doing this stuff, how am I staying connected and breaking the echo chamber? Because with the best will in the world, with the best trust in the world, businesses are set up to give things in bite-sized pieces to leaders. About as soon as you get above management level, managers just start to manage upwards as well as downwards. Breaking that echo chamber is important, being willing to hear other information, but also making sure that you don't indulge in that you're challenging upwards, and making sure that information feeding into those that are making the big decisions is a critical part of progress really on this stuff.
Is there anything final before we finish that you think leaders should know? Are there conversations that have come up for you with leaders in these situations in the organisations that you work with?
I think it's about finding your tribe, your leader tribe. Don't try and do this by yourself. Don't try and reinvent the wheel within your own team and business area. Step out, find the other leaders across different business areas, because they will be having the same challenges, the same worries, the same concerns, and they will be the people who will help you unlock the bigger problems that feel like you can't unlock them by yourself. So think about how you look after your team and yes, support them, but find your own tribe and your own support system and your peers.
That's such brilliant advice. And it's something that I think a lot of leaders, regardless of change, a lot of leaders under prioritize peer relationships and wider relationships and over prioritize those vertical relationships with their team and with their boss. Paula, you've been an incredible guest, so much practical value for people to take away from this. And I think really reassuring for people that are in this situation and maybe finding it a bit like wading through treacle, that they're not alone, but some really practical steps that they can take to help find the way through. If people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I'm always gobbing about on LinkedIn, so come and find me there if you want to have a chat, or you can get me through, we've got the website, which is theexproject.com, so you'll get all the details of how to find me to have a chat if you need it there.
Your videos on LinkedIn are epic. I absolutely love them. So yeah, definitely recommend giving Paula a follow. Thank you so much for listening. Please let us know what was most useful for you. Please do share this with anyone that you recognise might be going through this situation and need some of those tips. And please do rate and review on your favourite podcast platform. We will be back with another episode next week.
Exciting news from us. If you're an ambitious leader or manager earning 50k or more and you're ready to take your career to the next level, we have an opportunity for you. Introducing Catalyst Career Club, your secret weapon for unlocking career success. As a member, you'll get access to monthly live training sessions, exclusive job opportunities, and the ability to get personalised advice from us on your toughest career challenges.
We've helped thousands of driven leaders like you secure significant pay rises, land dream roles, and thrive in their careers. And now we want to support you in achieving your most ambitious career goals too. Membership is just $6.99 per month with no contract or tie-in. And as a special bonus for being our podcast listeners, you can use the code podcast at checkout to get your first month for just £1. Head over to pamelalangan.com/Catalyst Career Club to sign up now, and we'll see you inside.